Hi everybody, I'm KL Kettle and welcome to episode 14 of the Book Chain Project. This week, Louise Gooding is interviewing Danielle Brown, who is an MBE, a Paralympian and writer, and I found this interview when I watched it live one of the most surprising and wonderful interviews that we've had. So I really hope you enjoy it. Danielle, I will come to at the end, who she's interviewing next week. But before we go into the interview, let me remind you that we are accepting submissions for Series 2 of the Book Chain Project. If you'd like to be a part of this interview series and you are a published author or are going to be published next year, that's in 2022, then do get in touch. Go to www.klkettle.com. I'll put it down here and in the link text to the episode. Then you can see what you need to know to apply. If you are indie or self-published, we do have room for some indie or self-published writers, so apply. We can't take everybody, but we would love to hear from you if you're interested. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Louise and to Danielle. Bye.
Hi.
That worked so well.
I know, first time round too.
Yay. And my storm's moved on, so just pre-warning to storm just blew in, so if there's any loud noises, apologies for that. So hello and welcome to episode 14 of the Book Chain. I'm Louise Gooding. I'm the author of Just Like Me, 40 neurologically and physically diverse people who broke stereotypes. Just quickly, this interview is recorded live for YouTube, so I'm afraid to say we won't be able to take any questions throughout the interview, and we'll try our best to avoid any spoilers, but I guess, spoiler alert, non-fiction doesn't tend to have many spoilers. So that's some news for everyone there. Last week I was interviewed by the lovely Anna Bowles, and tonight I turn from interviewee to interviewer. And on that note, I want to welcome the lovely Danielle Brown MBE, who will be telling us a little about her brilliant non-fiction middle grade book, Run Like a Girl. I cheated to make a mock-up. Did it off.
Got one too.
You've got it. I haven't. Thank you so much for sending me a look at it anyways. I've enjoyed reading it. But please tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so my background isn't writing at all. It's actually sport, and I enjoyed a very successful career as a Paralympic and able-bodied athlete. So yeah, I mean, I suppose before that, sport was never my dream growing up, never the goal. Actually, from the age of 4, I've always wanted to be a writer. So I eventually got there after taking so many detours along the way.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, because I mean, when you read about you, it's like, you know, Danielle Brown, children's author, double Paralympic gold medalist, first disabled athlete to represent England at able-bodied championship, international speaker, inclusion champion. There's so much about you, which is brilliant, and that you bring to the table as a children's writer. So that's brilliant. So what inspired you then to start writing? Because obviously you said you wanted to be a writer, and then went into athletics. But what inspired you to pick up the pen again, so to speak?
Well, to be fair, I've never stopped. So I've always made up stories, and I've always written as well. And I loved writing all the way through my teenage years, all the way through being an athlete. You know, it was great escapism, and I wrote some really rubbish stuff. You know, it was terrible, but it was just, I enjoyed it. So not a waste of time. It was my me time. But I think every time I wrote something, I got better. I learned from it and sort of grew until, yeah, eventually ended up falling down the non-fiction route, where I just sort of engaged with that really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I do non-fiction too, so I understand where you come from. I mean, is there much of a difference between a pen and a bow? I mean, really, it's about hitting your target, I guess, and finding your aim and where you're going. So I guess there's a link there for you.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know what? I always say I copy and paste a lot of what I did in sport into whatever I'm doing now. So I think a lot of the soft skills, a lot of the transferable skills, sport was fantastic at teaching you those. And yeah, I just even though it is completely different now, I do sort of take a lot of the mentality over, which is great.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant. Well, you said, you know, you've always had an interest in writing. And I mean, as you said, your stories, was the nonfiction lurking there? Was it something that you thought, I really, as you said, you know, you fell in love with it, but was it something you thought you would ever have an interest in? Or were you hoping beforehand to write maybe novels and fiction? Like, what was your original dream?
Yeah, I love a good novel, and you know, I still think there is one in me. I'm sure I will get round to it one day. But yeah, I sort of love the epic fantasies. I love crime, really sort of thrillers, those kind of things. So I love reading them, and I guess sort of writing. I've mainly like dabbled in some of the fantasy stuff before, but yeah, children's nonfiction completely different, isn't it? And
It's
just seem to get on with that so well.
and how to, because the finding the processes, as we talked to Anna last week, the process, as you just said, is so different because, you know, it's picking bit and discovering a bit here and discovering a bit there, and there's so much to explore, I think, with nonfiction. So it's kind of a new adventure in itself, especially if you like fantasy. Is an epic adventure. It's in its own right, an adventure of its own, I think. So
Yeah, yeah.
so I'm going to go back to Run Like a Girl.
Hmm.
Very quickly, I'm going to read a very brief intro, unless you read it. Do you want to read the Run Like a Girl bit?
Oh no, I'll let you do that. I'll let you do that.
I
Go
love
for
this.
it.
Even begin with this book pulls you in. It's brilliant. It's "You run like a girl." If you ever hear those words, it's time to smile and put on your game face. Stand a little taller and a little prouder. They are right. You are strong and brave and fierce like a girl. You are ambitious and resilient and tough like a girl. You can run like a girl, catch like a girl, and throw like a girl. You can dream like a girl and win like a girl. These words, I have to say, I was like, yes, love this. These words just felt like they came from your heart and a place of obviously experience and something that was something you're really passionate about. And there's so much passion and strength just within these opening lines. And obviously it's carried through from the rest of your book and the story. It's just a really empowering start to what is obviously going to be an amazing book and an incredible collection of stories. So yeah, I mean, that obviously, I'm guessing, does come from a place of experience for you, these beginning words.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I remember, you know, when I was training on the GB team, and some of my male colleagues would say if they were doing really badly, they're like, "Oh, I'm shooting like a girl," and it's just like, well, hang on a minute. I'm beating you, and not because you're shooting rubbish. So it was always used as an insult, as if women are inferior to men. And actually, I it's rubbish, it is a load of rubbish. And I just think we really need to change that stereotype, because if somebody isn't doing well, often that badge, that brand, like a girl, is portrayed in such a negative way. And actually women do some really incredible things, particularly on the sporting side. I know generally do wonderful things, but sports obviously my background, and we see some amazing women out there, but their stories just don't get told. And I just really wanted to redefine that catchphrase that just gets overused so much.
Yeah, and it's brilliant, as you say. I mean, sports are carry through for all women. There's women's competition in various sports, and it was wonderful. I was watching the football the other day, and I was like, "There's a female commentator," and my husband was like, "Yes, they've been on for a while now," but that was just so exciting because I was like, "This is brilliant for girls to see other women that they can look up to." And presenting like a girl and talking to about football like a girl and being amazing. And I was like, so you're coming from, yes, bringing sports in and talking about it. I think it's really important, especially for girls who are used to maybe seeing more of a male representation when we talk about sports. So I think it's brilliant. So you choose 50 different athletes with 50 different stories, and from around the world too, which is, I know this, it must have been a really fun thing to dive into, and I love doing it myself, so it was really fun. And I know that choosing who to put in the book and who you have to leave out is so tough. What aided you in making those decisions?
Yeah, it really was hard. Very tough. First of all, I wanted good role models. So, you know, I think there were some amazing ones out there, but I was looking at this brilliant Brazilian judo player, for example. She came from the slums of Rio, but she failed a drugs test, so, you know, not making the cut. So it's all about good role models who could provide that those sort of really important character-driven lessons, really. So that was important. But really, I wanted a variety of different sports. I wanted a variety of different backgrounds, and I wanted a variety of different stories. Because I think if you did 50 stories where it was all about people going to the Olympics and coming away with gold, I think that would get very boring very quickly. You know, not that there aren't amazing stories out there, but it was just too samey. So yeah, I went looking for different stories. I wanted adventure sports, I wanted disability sports, I wanted sort of the team sport element side of it. I wanted all about overcoming adversity, and some really minority sports as well. So yeah, it was so tough, but really inspiring doing all the research.
Yeah, because I mean, I have to say, when I picked up and I was like 50 different sports, I have to say I sat there and was like, do I even know 50 different sports? I'm probably sure everyone will probably sit there, and if everyone that is at home watching this, sit there and actually try and think of 50. And you actually, once you look at the book, you're like, oh, these are all like, I know these. Probably some there as well, which maybe girls might not have considered or thought about. I mean, even with my girls, if they don't watch the Olympics, they're not going to know what shot put is, you know, or if they're not at school doing these things. So there must be a really great way of actually, even beyond the stories, just introducing sports which girls may have not even considered. Is that something you wanted to put out there?
Absolutely. I mean, I did archery, so, you know, very minority sport in itself. I didn't realise growing up that archery existed outside of medieval history or fairy stories. So I, you know, did not know it was an actual sport, and it wasn't until I happened to meet somebody on the school bus who did it. And I developed a disability at this point. I was struggling to run. I was struggling to walk about. So a lot of the sports that I'd engaged with when I was younger, a lot of the sports that I did at school, I couldn't do. And I thought, hey, maybe I could try that. And so, yeah, there are so many different sports out there, but unless, as you say, unless you try it at school or happen to see it on TV, you're not necessarily aware of them.
Yeah. And I think it's a shame because there's so many, you know, great things out there. So, I mean, maybe archery had a boost with the whole Hunger Games. I'm sure there was a little bit of, you know, many kids out there going, I'm gonna do that. My own daughter was the same and tried to take up archery, and I went with her and did the whole, I've got weird elbows, so the first time I tried archery, my elbow completely got bruised. You probably know that.
Oh, yeah.
It was just this great big purple bruise on my arm. Everybody watch your elbows when you try archery. But it's, you know, it was great. And, you know, she just practices out the back, and we haven't got with sharp anything because this is my household. An accident will happen. But, you know, it's just fun to see them explore, try things. But, you know, it was something that it came from books. And, you know, with your book, when you look inside it, it's more than just, you know, the Hunger Games. It's a whole array of amazing sports, which I think girls will connect to. And, you know, skateboarding is on the front cover as well. And again, that's a very male represented sport, and girls love it. You know, I have, again, girls that love skateboarding. So I think it's really great that you've covered so many. But what were your favourite sports to cover? What were the ones that you really said, apart from archery, of course? What were the ones you were really like, I need these to be seen and talk about these and showcase these amazing sports?
Oh, see, now it wasn't necessarily the sport, but I think it was more the person. So, like, yeah, I mean, to be honest, like archery, I wanted to get that across. Jousting I thought was cool, you know, I'd love to give that a go, you know, that was it. But for me it was more than that, it was more the personality. So for I wanted to really portray, as I say, a different range of things, but what really got me, or what really inspired me, was the overcoming adversity bit, because
Yeah.
you know we always experience challenges, doesn't matter what it is. So for example, hockey, I you know, it's brilliant, I love speaking to hockey players. Not my favorite thing to watch, you know, it's watch it if it's going, but it's not something I religiously follow. But just reading and researching Kate Richardson Walsh's story about how she competed in London with a broken jaw and a metal plate in her face after undergoing an operation, I was just like, wow, you know, sort of how gritty and tough and determined that is. So for me, it was more about the person and that story rather than the sport. And I think it is the people that bring it to life, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And as you say, there's always extra bits that you can find. I mean, talking about that, you briefly mentioned obviously there's one person that you had to unfortunately leave out, you know, earlier in your research. But I mean, obviously you're having to whittle it down to 50, and I guess as you are a sports person, you probably know a lot of sports people, and it's choosing those 50. And were there any of the people that you thought, oh, I wish there was a bit more space, can we make it 55 or 60, you know? Or is that just means there's room for book 2? I mean, was there anyone you thought, you know, I wish there was some space, or you felt like a little saddened? Because I had this with mine, so it's totally
Yeah, no, I did. I could have kept going. I could have just kept doing it and doing it and doing it, and I'd have just had sort of a gigantic book, which yeah, would not feasible. I think there are so many deserving athletes out there, and I just had to rein myself in terms of, and again, you know, it gets even tougher, doesn't it? Because we've got Tokyo this year, so we're going to
yeah.
see some more amazing talent, amazing stories, you know. So I mean, I used the fantastic example of Rio with Nikki Hamblin, who, you know, is just amazing, and the whole concept of kindness in sport. So yeah, I'm sure in Tokyo we'll see some fantastic things as well, so there'll be some more amazing people. But yeah, it was so tough to narrow down. And yeah, I feel not just bad about missing people out, but missing sports out, because I couldn't include all the sports that I wanted to either. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It is tough. I mean, yeah, I was the same. You know, it's like, you know, 40, and you sit there and go like, and then afterwards you're like, oh, I wanted to do this, that, and oh, you know, and sometimes it's even afterwards when you look at it and you go, oh, I forgot to talk about this, and there's this like, you know, this. Oh, but I mean, I keep joking. There's then space for us to consider book two, book 2, that we can keep talking about it, because people are going to still be doing, say, amazing things. Time's going to move on. New things to talk about and new achievements to unlock and discover, which is brilliant. Obviously, again, you literally covered an amazing diverse group of voices in this book, like, you know, as I said, people from around the world. So how important is it to you to have that diverse representation, especially in children's books?
Hugely important. I think one of the most amazing things about being an elite athlete was getting to travel the world. And I grew so much as a person just by visiting other countries, experiencing other cultures, and really immersing yourself into that. And meeting people from those countries, you know, talking to them, learning about them. So for me, understanding those backgrounds, I just think it opens your mind. I think that it helps us become more relatable. You know, I think sort of particularly over here, you can sadly quite see a them and us mentality, and seeing people as being very different. But really, I think that there's so much about humanity that connects us, and just understanding those personal stories whilst putting in that flavour of the cultural background that they grew up in. It's really, really important just as part of that learning process.
Yeah, and obviously as well, like, you know, being inclusive of disability, obviously from being a Paralympic athlete yourself, it's very important to show that, you know, there, you know, there's not so much limits. You know, you've got that again on the cover. I look, you know, you've got, you know, the surfer. We have Simone Biles, ADHD, and I love her. She's brilliant. She's in my book as well. So,
yes, yeah, sure. And I love it as well, because yeah, I know we both wrote the chapter on Simone, and they're so different, aren't they? Because you know, you could write an entire book about her, and just trying to narrow it down into one chapter, it's just amazing. And yeah, I love reading your chapter about her, and yeah, they were so different.
But it's so hard. You're fitting someone's life story into like 600 words, which is something people probably don't understand, you know, with the non-fiction side. It's so hard. You're like, you want to talk and celebrate all their achievements, and then you're like, oh, I've written like 2,000 words and it's meant to be 500. Yay! And it's trying to put that across, isn't it, with all of these stories? And you know, and I said, but you've really done an amazing job of bringing in, you know, not just cultural differences, but you know, even that, you know, physical and neurological, which obviously for me is something that I'm passionate about because I did with my book. But you know, it's great that kids can see that and see it's not just, you know, not just as such able-bodied, but it's people from all over the world with all different backgrounds, who are all just doing amazing things like a girl. It's great. I think it's really something to celebrate. So that was brilliant.
Thank you.
So I'll just ask some more questions. I did say about the sports was really difficult for me just to work out like what I actually knew. I did actually quiz some of my kids and say, do you know about this sport? I realized, because obviously where we are, this is why it works as well internationally, I guess, because the sport that we have available in Switzerland will be different, even to in England, or what they have access to. And I think that's a really important thing. Is this book going international? So that's my question. Is it going?
It's definitely going to the US. So yeah, we've got a US release date in September. At the minute, I don't know any further than that. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Well, they can always. I think you can always order things from Waterstones. They ship it. It's fine. Exactly. Buy the book. So as an athlete as yourself, have you actually met and worked with a lot of the people you've included in your book, or some of them you've not worked with?
So a lot of them I hadn't met. Quite a few of them I had, but what I did was I reached out to everybody on my list to see if I could get them to check the chapter. Because, you know, as an athlete, I got some media attention. I got so many things that were written about me that weren't correct, even though I did the interview. And yeah, it wasn't good. And I think one of the big ones, actually, to be fair, I can't blame the local paper for this. It was entirely my mum's fault. But after, no, it really was. It really was. After I won gold in Beijing, the local paper rang my mum up and said, can I interview you? My mum didn't really know what to say. I was like, okay. And said, why did Danielle start archery? And mum's like, oh, I don't know. I think she had an obsession with Lord of the Rings. And it followed me for 4 years. Like, I could not get rid of it. It was like printed so many times. So I was just so mindful of that. So I, you know, reached out to everybody just to check their chapter, make sure they were super happy with it. Didn't manage to contact all of them, but I got sort of a real good chunk. But yeah, I have met as well. I have met and knew some of the athletes in there, but always great to meet new people too.
Exactly, because it's really fun. Started talking because we connected obviously because of our project sort of lined up quite well, and both having books out this year. And you even knew like some of the people in my book who, and I was like, oh, and it's lovely who you have these little connections with, and everyone kind of joins up, and you know, it's nice to be able to, I suppose, work with or get to know the people as well. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes you can't connect with because of time differences or busy lifestyles, but it's always lovely when you can connect with the people, especially writing about. So that's really lovely. What's your favorite part about being a published author?
It's so tough because as I sort of mentioned at the beginning, my passion really is the writing, but I love that. That's sort of my me time. And I managed to like get the first draft done in 3 months, on top of all my other projects, just because I was so inspired and just doing all the reading and the research and the writing. It was really, really fun. But yeah, I don't know, just getting the book, seeing it come to life and seeing it out there is just really, really special. So yeah,
And you mentioned the research. I mean, how long? I mean, I know obviously how long it took me, and I asked this last week about how it's so easy to get lost down a rabbit hole when you're researching someone. How long did it take you was this an idea you've had for a long while to do this book? How long was your research, and how long was this book a project of yours?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. It kind of just came to me because I do quite a bit in the corporate sector, particularly looking at helping women, empowering them, and looking at barriers. And I always find it amazing. There are so many barriers out there, but there are also a lot of self-imposed barriers. And I truly believe that a lot of these self-imposed barriers come from childhood, and the messages that actually start from before we're born. So I was just looking at this and thinking, how can we break down some of these barriers? Thought, hey, children's book. I thought, just really trying to portray that, as I said, smash that barrier like a girl, just completely change it, turn it to a positive instead of a negative. And really redefine, or I say redefine, women are actually doing this, so it's not redefining anything, but it's just making people aware of it, isn't it? That
changing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
I was hiding underneath my printout of the book I don't have yet, but it is on order. It's coming as soon as it's out. Because when does it come out again? It's in a few weeks now, isn't it?
It was. Unfortunately, yeah, we've had a bit of bad news this week that it's stuck on a ship, so it's on the way. But I think COVID slowed everything down, unfortunately. So it'd probably be a month's delay, which is but it is what it is, isn't it?
I mean, this is what it's sort of. You've got the real copy. It will sort of look like this, but underneath is the one I do have.
Cool.
Because you have another book quickly, and I think you should just quickly explain this, because this is again another great book building on changing the narrative and being confident and being your best self, which I love. And do you want to just tell everyone about Be Your Best Self quickly, because it's an amazing.
Yeah. So actually, I can't take credit for the idea of this. It was my co-author who came up with the idea. And my co-author, I met him when he was 7 years old. So I was speaking at an event about what it takes to be the best in the world. And he asked whether I had written a book for children about whether they could be the best they could be. And I said I hadn't. But he said, could we write one together? And, it was so amazing. Yeah, I know. And I do a lot of work around soft skills about, as you said, the confidence, the resilience, the mindset type of thing. But one of the things that I'm so keen on trying to push and encourage is saying yes to opportunities, because I just think that's so, so important. But the reality is that there aren't always opportunities to say yes to. And I think I was so amazed with Nathan at 7 years old when he was trying to create an opportunity for himself. That, I think if people are doing that, you've really got to encourage them. So of course I said yes, and the rest is history.
Well, it's brilliant. And I think if people are going to, and we're going to get to this in a minute, when they order, obviously Run Like a Girl, I think they need the co-companion, Be Your Best Self, because I think it's a brilliant, and obviously, for Nathan, I'm sure that's great as well, because his dream is coming alive. So I will, I'm plugging that one for you as well, because I own that. And it's So what is next then? We're going to round up quickly. What is next for you? Is there other things in motion? Are you considering other projects, or are you diving back into some sort of sporting world. What's happening next?
Oh, crikey. Yeah.
Warn you about that question. Full on.
Yeah, I know. Yes, so I do have some projects currently in progress, but writing, I'm not allowed to speak about them. Which is really frustrating, isn't it? I know you'll probably find this as well. Yeah, you've got so many exciting things, and yeah, all I can say is just watch this space, because yeah, I've got some news hopefully coming shortly, and then some longer burning projects too.
Perfect, that's amazing. So the most important question is, where can people pick up a copy of your book, or books, if they're going to do what I said earlier and get the other one as well?
Super. Yeah, I mean, all major bookstores sell it. With Run Like a Girl is on my website, daniellebrown.co.uk, and I've also got the opportunity there to gift copies as well, because one of the things I'm so keen about is about creating those opportunities, and I'm just so mindful that there are so many disadvantaged children out there that don't have books. So I'm trying to do what I can in my own little way to plug that gap.
That's brilliant. That's lovely. Well, that's amazing. And obviously you've just answered what I was going to end on as well, and just say, who do you want to see reading your book? Just answered that more or less, which is brilliant. Yeah. So hopefully schools and libraries pick this up, because I think it's an amazing book for kids, not necessarily just girls. We'll put that one out there. I think it's good for even boys to discover the amazing sports just in this book, and the amazing people. So I would say that it's great for across the board. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say before we end tonight's book project? 'Cause you're interviewing who next week?
Oh, I'm interviewing Bryony Pierce. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I can't believe that half an hour has gone by so quickly. So yeah.
I've skipped through them, but it's fine. Sorry guys. Book chain's only half an hour. But anyways, thank you so much. And we didn't have much storm disturbance. And thank you to everyone who's joined us this evening. And do remember to follow Danielle's Instagram, because next week she'll be going live and continuing the book chain. So I guess we've got to do that awkward wave now as we log off. I love this so much. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us, and good night. Bye.
She's facing zombies, ghosts, witches and hellhounds, with nothing but her wits and a talking cat. It's a bad day for Ivy. Raising Hell by Bryony Pierce, out June 2021.
Hi everybody, welcome to part two. I can't even say that. Part two, behind the scenes of the book chain. Thank you, Danielle, for joining me again for this sort of behind the scenes chit chat. I have to make sure I can bring up those questions I was going to ask you earlier, because I sent you some random quick fire questions. Do you feel ready for it?
Yep, let's go.
I'm gonna have to see if I can find it now, because it's one of those things, you know what it's like. You get it all ready, and then and then you don't have it ready. So
a million tabs. Yeah, no, I know that.
It's in my brain and in real life. It's a real thing. So could you name one new hobby that you would like to try or master?
So I have actually set myself a world record challenge, scuba diving, and I've never done it before. So that is, we're hopefully going to be doing that by the end of the year. So yeah, I'm hopefully learning how to scuba dive. So that'll be my new hobby.
So what is the world record challenge going to be?
Oh yeah,
it's not the furthest a Danielle Brown has ever scuba dived. It's not like that specific. It's an actual.
Well, I suppose that would be a record.
That could be a record.
Be a PB. No, it's the largest team of disabled people to scuba dive in the open sea.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Yeah. And how do you feel about that?
Excited, a little bit nervous. I think just because I've never done it before. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and on the water theme, I just ordered a paddle board as well. So I don't think I'll be doing that standing up.
Yeah.
My balance is rubbish, but I'll be trying kneeling down paddle boarding as well.
Well, hopefully you get some good weather for that, because that's a must. I mean, maybe a long shot in England wanting the good weather, but we can see.
Yeah.
The last 3 books you've read.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I can't remember now. I've read Bryony's book, Raising Hell, I'm looking forward to interviewing her all about that. I reread Butterfly, which was or is Yusra Mardini's autobiography, and it is just amazing, amazing, amazing. And I'm currently halfway through Blood of Ravens. I think that's what it's called. I'm going to be in trouble for that. No, it's a brilliant fantasy novel that's written by Olympian Jen McIntosh. So I'm really enjoying that at the minute. But yeah, and I'm really hoping I got the title right.
I hate this when you have to think about titles that you've actually books you've been reading. But I mean, I'm just getting into kids books at the moment. I keep trying to read adult books, but it's falling a bit behind at the moment. So I think my last 3 would be Good News, which has just come out by Rashmi. I'm terrible. I will apologize to her. I've forgotten her surname. I forget everyone. I mean, I call my children 1, 2, and 3. So like, it's no offense to the other book I've read is The Soup Project. I don't even know that author. This is what you'll see with me. I know his name's Ben. This is my problem when I name things. I'm like, Ben, who wrote the Soup Movement, Rashmi, who wrote this, and then I think the other one was I know this is the Louis Theroux's Gotta Get Through This. I had a bit of a crush on him many years ago, and I was determined to read this book because I was like, he had such an amazing journey with all his strange interviews, and I guess it's that non-fiction, what we do. It's that non-fiction edge of sort of seeing people's lives and delving into them. So there's a real connection with that for me. So yeah, have you read them yourself?
I haven't, no, but it's definitely on my my reading list. But yeah, and I completely get it. I think people say you're either good at names or faces, and I'm rubbish at both.
I just about know faces, but I mean, you're lucky if I remember anybody's name or anything, because I've got the titles right, I hope. So there's hope for me somewhere. A very important question, because obviously it's very related to being an author. Favorite type of cake?
Lemon drizzle all the way.
Okay. And do you make it yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I love cooking and I love baking. Oh, and I even love growing stuff to cook as well in the garden. So yeah, good fun. How about you? Favorite cake?
Do you know what? I like a bit of Battenberg, but I think it's just because I can't buy it here and I have to actually physically make it. So I've done it a few times and it's not the same. So I crave Battenberg quite a lot. Yeah, that Battenberg's quite difficult to make.
Yeah. No, my partner, he's a Kiwi and he'd never seen or heard or tasted Battenberg before. So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a must. I mean, I've tried it, but it's still not the same. So you've lost your favorite bookmark. What are you going to use instead? What's normally your go-to? Everybody uses all sorts of things. Or do you crease the edges? Are people going to boo and hiss you when they hear you crease edges of the book over? My mum, honestly, she thinks I'm so weird because all my books are so pristine. But in terms of bookmarks, yeah, I'll probably get booed and hissed and whatever, because I use anything and everything. I've used coffee mugs as bookmarks. I've used my phone. Anything that's going, whatever's convenient, I just stuff it in. But yeah, don't do the creasing. I have to admit, I've probably had a new low here of I really couldn't find a bookmark, and I was halfway through, and it was one of those emergency situations, and I probably used one of my children's socks. I don't even know if it was clean. But that's a new low. There's some news for people. Louise has used a sock that she wasn't sure was clean, so coffee mugs are probably, that's not something I do as a regular. I need to point that out. That's not
fair enough.
You get what I am here. It's just there's no holding back. It's fine.
Go for it.
Life. It's life.
Exactly.
Favorite children's book growing up? Not Lord of the Rings, I'm assuming.
I did love that. But do you know what? Has to be Song of the Lioness Quartet by Tamora Pierce. So I love that, all about lady knights. So maybe sort of where I got my archery inspiration from. Subconsciously, I don't know, but I just loved it. Strong female character. I think, again, growing up, so what was that? Growing up sort of late 90s, early 2000s, you didn't really see that too much in books, did you? That really strong female character. And I loved it. The adventure, the fantasy. Yeah, brilliant.
I've never read it. I've never heard of that one. So you'll have to send me a DM with that, because I'll forget.
Yep, no, definitely will.
It will be out of my mind by the time we finish. But please do send that, because that sounds amazing. My favourite was I'm trying to think now. Sorry, 1 second. I have to press. We're going to pause this because Kitty can do this. I've just had someone appear. I have a child appear. So luckily, Kitty can edit this. This is the editable one. Yes. Okay, I'll be there in a minute. Okay, this child not sleeping. Kitty's getting all the background knowledge of me. Children not sleeping. I'll be there in a minute. Thank you. Love you. Kitty, edit that bit out. Anyways, yeah, my favourite book was Animals of Farthingwood. That was a classic. I don't know if you ever read that.
Yeah, and I used to love that. I never watched much TV growing up, but yeah, that was one of the ones I loved watching on TV. Although, yeah, it did used to make me cry.
Yeah, and I think I was trying to explain a while ago that it's still actually really relevant today, I think, as a book, because it's all about deforestation and animals trying to find a new home for themselves. So I think it's actually a classic that's kind of carried forward really well, and actually fits with a lot of kids who are really interested in the world and climate, really. So I think it's still brilliant. It's a massive book. I think we had it when we were younger in smaller bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
And now it's a really big fat book, and it's like, that's quite daunting. I quite like the little mini chapters. So yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, still a favourite. Colin Dan, I know his name because Colin Dan was a favourite. There you go. I know someone's name's there.
We got a win.
Really random question, just because bit of a nerd in this house. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Gotta be Star Trek.
Oh, that's good.
Although you know what, I would ship both of those and go for Stargate.
Ooh. I watched that yonks ago.
Oh, it's so good.
It was so good. I mean, hold on, I don't remember everyone's, but there was a Daniel in that one.
There was.
I think I know a name. There we go. It's amazing, magical. But yeah, that was a really good series. But yeah, I think if I had to choose, I would be Star Trek, but definitely Voyager.
Yes.
Voyager. Maybe my eldest is called Catherine. Totally nothing to do with that. Maybe it is, but yeah, I loved it. I think, again, it was the whole thing of having a strong female character, and you just didn't see it. It was like, I mean, they had them in other obviously Star Treks, but they were never obviously the captain. So it was having this strong female, and the actress is just phenomenal. She did such a great job, and I could watch Voyager again and again. It's a brilliant series.
Yeah, I love that. And same reason. Yeah, I just love the humor, just the way she comes across. Yeah, super.
Yeah, it's that sarkiness and like just no nonsense, and brilliant. Love her. Have you seen the new one?
Discovery. Yes. Yeah.
I love.
Yeah, I have. I really enjoyed that, actually.
It's different.
Not so much, but yeah, the first two, fantastic. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think they're really interesting the way they've done it, and I think every series they put a new spin on it, which makes it brilliant. So yeah, good answer. Star Trek. Milkshakes or smoothies?
I like both. Do you know what though? I think I'd probably be suckered down the milkshake route. You know, I kind of feel the smoothie. I've got to do that to be healthy, but
I was going to say, as the athlete in you says, have a smoothie.
I know, yeah, it's just years of training, go for the fruit option, but
Oh dear. Yeah, I have to say, like when we lived in England many years ago, they had like milkshake bars, and you could get like a Snickers milkshake or a Mars bar milkshake. And I was just like, I was thinking the other day when I wrote this question to you, I was like, I don't think my kids have ever experienced any of that, because they just don't have milkshake bars here. So my kids have never experienced I'll have to go and get some Snicker bars and make them, but yeah, not the same. You might have answered this earlier with your new sport or your new hobby, but swimming wise, is it pool, lake, or sea?
oh, actually, do you know what? I'll go with lake.
Okay.
Lake, yeah. I did a 5K open water swim in a lake a couple of years ago, and I loved it. I'd love to do more. I don't feel comfortable doing open water on my own, just because my legs can cramp up a little bit. So yeah, I always like to do it with somebody, which has just been really tough the last year and a bit. But hopefully now we're opening up, I'll be able to do a bit more of that.
Oh, well, yes, hopefully. So we've got lots of nice lakes to go swimming in here, but I'm definitely a pool person. I don't like cold water. I can't do cold. So I'm like one of these spoiled people of like, what's the temperature? Is it is it above a certain point? Yeah, I mean, we've got beautiful lakes, and you've probably seen on my Instagram or something, you know, but we have that, and my kids jump in, and I'm just like, don't swim away, because then I'd have to get in, and I don't really want to get in. But yeah, it's probably more of a pool. I'm probably a bit spoiled and need a pool, because it needs to be a certain temperature. But they're 24 degrees here at the moment, which is the temperature of an average British indoor pool, I think. So,
to be fair, I go there full wetsuit. I have wetsuit socks because my feet get really cold. I've got wetsuit gloves, and all I need now is sort of a good sort of hat, really.
You're prepared. You're very good then. You're obviously not like me, who just not prepared. So I'm going to quickly ask, is there anything before we finish that you'd want to tell people about your book? Is there a message that you want to put out there? Is there something that we didn't cover that you would love people to know about your book and why it's important to you?
I think really we kind of touched on it. I think I wrote it just because I think role models are so important, and I think because I always consider myself to be really privileged, that the fact that I have done sport, one of greatest joys in life is going into schools and engaging with young people and just sharing the stories. And you know, you get to hear back about what impact that story has had, and just being able to write and put other people's stories across in a really exciting way, and get them across, you know, sort of those really important messages that kids need, for me it's just so important, and I love it. So yeah, I really do hope people are as inspired reading it as I was writing it, because it was just so much fun to do.
And as you say, you know, some kids will, you know, maybe don't have access to the sporting facilities. You know, some schools, I think, struggle with having the sporting facilities. So children don't get an introduction to some of the things you said you've covered in this book. And just beyond that, just to talk about it or have the opportunity to explore different things. So I think it's a really great way of having books beyond, you know, the amazing people and the things that they're doing, just introducing and talking to kids about what's out there. And hopefully it would be great, you know, obviously, as you say, you know, you would like to get some books out there to kids maybe who don't have the resources to get the books, maybe don't have the resources to get out and do sports, but actually you can still introduce them to this wonderful world which is out there, which hopefully they do discover and get the opportunity to find for themselves later, I hope. So that would be a nice, fingers crossed. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And we've done our little bit of behind the scenes. And yeah, it's been lovely to interview you. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. You've been really, really great interviewer. It's been fantastic.
it's just been nice having a chat. It's been, as you say, people who don't know, we've been talking on Twitter for how long now? 9 months, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, it was sometime last year, I think.
Yes, we've been talking for a while and exchanging the similarities of our books and people that you know and people that I've written about but didn't get to speak to. And it's like, oh, you know people.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny, as I say, you mentioned, Matt Stutzman, who's in my book, and you were at the Paralympics with him. So
yeah, he's amazing. Yeah, we've done a few competitions together. A genuinely nice guy as well. So yeah, it's obviously what he does is amazing, but I think more importantly, he's so humble and just really nice.
Yeah, I mean, you find this, I think there's always this worry of people. You're thinking, that people just seem sort of like a bit distant, like you can't reach out sometimes. But everyone's actually just people just getting on with their world and actually are really approachable and lovely. It's just their passions that they're following and they've made a success with that. So it's nice that, you can reach out. But it's great. I had today someone telling me that just a random person who met up with me earlier and said that every time they have read someone in Just Like Me, they've gone online and Googled that person and watched, maybe watch videos or watch them talk or actually gone and looked into like these people, like Greta Thunberg doing stuff. And I think funny enough, they mentioned that they watched it was probably, I think, Matt Stutzman's doing some training or a video, and then they watched like Nkosi Johnson's speech. And I'm hoping people will do this with your book and actually, who are these people, and expand and see these people in action, because that's a really great thing that you can do. We're chatting on here. We're not meant to be starting to say goodbye, but
it's good. Yeah, because I think that is important, isn't it? That I suppose when it comes to role models, for me, it's about real role models. So, and I suppose I was kind of alluding to that in the other bit about, when you were asking me about how did you pick them and what was it, and yes, it obviously being good character, but having that sort of realness about them that you can sort of then go and look at them and actually that they sort of do operate in that way. I think is so important.
Yeah, and I think it's just nice that the kids are getting to see different people doing different things, and it's just opening up that conversation. I will round up and just stop recording for now, because we can continue this all night, but I will press stop on the recording, and hopefully everyone's enjoying the behind the scenes bit. So I will just press stop. And I'll say goodbye to everyone, but not to you, because we can talk on. People don't need to hear us talking on. So I will say goodbye to everyone else listening anyway. So thank you for joining for the behind the scenes.
Hi everybody, I hope you really enjoyed that interview. Danielle is a fantastic individual, and I really look forward to what she's writing next. She will be interviewing next week Bryony Pierce, who is a very established YA author and has even moved over into writing for adults recently. So she's a great person to hear from. She will be interviewed next week by Danielle Brown. So that's Bryony Pierce next week. I will see you then. Bye for now.